All right, a top focus on WION right now. The United Nations Security Council, UNSC, met to discuss the war in Gaza and the hostages held by Hamas. Ahead of the meeting, Gideon Sa'ar, who is the Israeli foreign minister, told reporters that Israel had called for the meeting focused on the hostages after Hamas released videos over the weekend showing two of them emaciated. Israel believes that there are still about 20 living hostages in Gaza, as well as the bodies of 30 others. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel must complete the defeat of Hamas to secure the release of the remaining hostages. He met senior security officials to finalize a new strategy for the nearly two-year war, with media reporting that he favors a complete military takeover of the Gaza Strip. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump declined to say whether he supported or opposed the move of his ally Benjamin Netanyahu, and said that his administration's focus was on increasing food access to the Gaza Strip.
As you know, $60 million was given by the United States fairly recently to supply food, and a lot of food, frankly, for the people of Gaza that are obviously not doing too well with the food. And I know Israel is going to help us with that in terms of distribution and also money. We also have the Arab states are going to help us with that in terms of the money and possibly distribution. So that's what I'm focused on. As far as the rest of it, I really can't say. That's going to be pretty much up to Israel. Yeah.
UN agencies continue to warn of insufficient amounts of humanitarian aid allowed into Gaza, as global monitors say that famine is unfolding in the enclave.
And I hope you understand that the magnitude, that the difference between this very small amount of aid that has now come in, and everybody expects me to clap and say thank you, and the massive needs that are there, where people are literally dying on a daily basis.
Truck drivers trying to deliver aid inside Gaza say their work has become increasingly dangerous in recent months, as people have grown desperately hungry and violent gangs filled a power vacuum left by the territory's Hamas rulers. Well, the local driver said that crowds of hungry people routinely rip aid off the backs of moving trucks. The Gazans complain they have nothing to eat, nothing to drink.
I ran when I saw the aircraft due to the lack of food. I ran to get food for my children. I have injured children lying on their backs, and I have no flour, no food, nothing to drink. The situation is tragic. This food which I managed to get will feed the children without bread. Life is very hard in the Gaza Strip.
A number of Palestinians were injured by an Israeli strike as they waited for aid in Gaza on Tuesday. The injured were taken to the Al Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis, with videos showing people bleeding and lying on the floor of the overcrowded hospital. This wasn't an incident in isolation. There were 3 such incidents in the past 24 hours. 56 people lost their lives. In total, 68 people were killed by the Israeli gunfire. And well, joining me right now on the broadcast from London is Jane Kinman-Mount, CEO of the United Nations Association in the United Kingdom. Welcome to WION, Mr. Kinman-Mount. First up, of course, your assessment of what is actually transpiring in Gaza right now, with famine increasing, children dying of malnutrition, and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu completely adamant on a complete takeover of the Gaza Strip.
Well, firstly, on the famine, we can see that around the world, many people are calling for this to stop. And the fact is, it could be stopped overnight. Trump has mentioned the US giving money, but it's not about American money. There is already a UN system that is in place that could deliver the aid. But the problem is that for political reasons, it has been barred from working to a large extent in Gaza. Now, as you can see, there is some aid being let through, but the problem is that it's so small, it's so inadequate, that the starving people are then rushing the trucks because they are so desperate to feed their kids. So this doesn't have to happen. It's a man-made problem, and it's down to political will from Netanyahu's government and from the American government. It is important also to note that opposition inside Israel to this policy has been growing. And although Netanyahu has been talking about this full reoccupation of Gaza, it seems even the Israeli army is highly opposed to this. Multiple former heads of the army and former heads of intelligence released a very powerful video this week in which they criticised the Israeli government. They went as far as to say it was an irrational, fundamentalist government waging a political war and asking the army to fulfil fantasy politics. For people that have led the army to go this far in public really shows the depth of the opposition that is mounting inside Israel itself.
Right, Ms. Kinman-Mount, just to take that forward, UN has said that any expanded incursions by the Israeli army will lead to catastrophic consequences. According to you, what's the way out? What is the solution at this point of time? Because the US president has clearly declined to say whether he supports or opposes Israel's war in Gaza at this point of time.
So the rest of the world really needs to stand up here to try to save the coexistence of the two communities in this part of the world, the Israeli people and the Palestinian people. And that is actually what European countries and others like Canada, Australia are now trying to do by saying that when the UN General Assembly meets in September, they will recognise a Palestinian state. This is intended as a political shift to show the Israelis that the rest of the world will not accept Israel occupying or annexing Gaza or the West Bank, because at the end of the day, that will mean a continued conflict. There are some in the Israeli government that believe that they can stop the conflict by pushing the Palestinians out into other countries and taking over the occupied Palestinian territory. But at the end of the day, that won't solve the problem. It will mean that there are displaced people in the region, even more of them, desperately wanting to fight to come home and being opposed to Israel being on those lands. It will just go on and on for decades. It is time to find a political solution, and there is a global consensus behind that. The problem is, of course, that the US president takes quite a different view from most of the international community. Will he change his mind? His base also seems very divided now on this conflict, but he's taking on a large number of things. And right now, he's also heavily focused again on his relationship with Russia.
Right. Just to follow up on that, you speak of how there's a global consensus on what is happening in Gaza right now. My question to you is that, will the Israeli Prime Minister come under pressure of any sorts right now to end the assault in Gaza? Because the former Shin Bet and Mossad chiefs yesterday came out and told the Israeli Prime Minister to back down and to stop the aggression in Gaza.
Yeah, I think this is really important. You're seeing pressure from all sides in Israel. You're seeing street protests by NGOs, and at the same time, we're seeing these pillars of the establishment warning that this is going too far and that it is endangering Israel's security. But Israel's parliament is about to go on a very long summer recess, and Netanyahu has shown an incredible ability to hold on to power and to manage his coalition. So it may be that there will need to be further international pressure, including on trade and on arms supplies, the types of things that European countries are supposed to place sanctions on if there are war crimes happening. That might marry up with the growing opposition inside Israel to force more internal calls for change, even if the US president is not sure what he wants to see come out of it.
Right, Ms. Kinman-Mount, thank you so much for joining us here on WION with your insights from London.